Hi, I'm Leena Rao. Welcome to our Ask a VC show where we put VCs in the hot seat. We're joined today by Maha Ibrahim, General Partner at Canaan Partners. Maha, welcome to the studio.
Thanks, Leena, for having me.
I want to go into your background just a little bit before we start. Maha invests in cloud, social gaming, and digital media companies for Canaan. Past investments include PixPal, which was acquired by Liberty Media, Kabam, a social media company, Coolbit, and you've also invested in a number of enterprise companies as well. You know, I think the social gaming element of your investments is really relevant now. Zynga's going through a pretty tough time. You know, EA, is having layoffs. Is there still an opportunity in social gaming? I mean, we've been talking about mobile for so long in social gaming, but Zynga just shut down, Draw Something, OMG Pop, and I just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
So at Kabam, we've built a world-class gaming company, and it was never thought of from the beginning as being a social gaming company. It was really thought of from the beginning as being a gaming company, and really servicing the needs of the transition of gamers from console devices, and there have been a massive transition of console gamers to the mobile tablet. We at Kabam have diversified the platform so that we run on Facebook, the web, and mobile devices, and we're certainly seeing the transition to more mobile devices being a huge part of the business. The differentiation that we've seen as an investor at Canaan, and we've seen this through Kabam, is that when we've invested in the gaming space, we've done so in a way where we've looked at how do we build games that are for the long haul, that last for 3, 4, 5 years, where we have gamers who spend a good amount of time and a lot of money on those games. Those are kind of critical components of building a successful gaming company. And that's also why you're seeing Zynga falter, unfortunately.
It seems like it's a hits-driven business. Mm-hmm. How do you go about creating those hits over and over and over again? I mean, that seems, it's like the pressure on a movie studio, right?
Yes.
I mean, to create those hits, but they have a lot of misses as well.
Yes.
Is it a sustainable business?
Absolutely. And what we're seeing now is the next generation of world-class gaming companies being built, hopefully with Supercell, hopefully with Kabam, hopefully with a handful of others, and that we have a platform that is mobile, unlike Facebook, and we'll leave that to the side, that really can sustain very, very large companies. I do think that the movie studio analogy is appropriate in that it is somewhat of a hits-driven business. Underlying that is a whole lot of analytics and a whole lot of great development that goes into making Sony as a movie studio the way as successful as they are, or Warner Brothers. The difference in gaming is that our movies or hits last for years. They're not weekenders, right? They are 4 to 5 to 6 year franchises.
That's right. That's right. Well, it should be interesting to see what happens in social gaming. Maybe would you make another bet in the gaming space? I mean, is it something that you would still look at, if it doesn't, of course, interfere with Kabam?
I do so cautiously because I've realized through the Kabam investment how scale advantages a player. Kabam has built an entire ecosystem internally for developing their games, for understanding which games will be the most profitable, for understanding which games the audience wants to see and doesn't want to see. If I invest in another development stage gaming company, that's really taking a flyer on one game. And that is when you get into the hits-driven part of the business, right, that I'm not necessarily comfortable with.
Well, I want to switch to one of our reader questions, which I think is pretty interesting. What are your thoughts on older founders in their late 30s, 40s, or even 50s launching their first startup? Why we're laughing, of course, is because who would think that older founders are considered in their late 30s? Adding to that specifically, what are the expectations do you have for older founders in terms of their own investment in the company versus younger founders who may not have as much money in the bank account? I think there's it's a really good question because it seems like founders are getting younger and younger,
yeah,
and there's definitely that's a trend that we're seeing. And it's easier to start a company as well without $100,000 or $200,000 in your bank account. So what's your perspective on that?
So the importance at Canaan and for myself around founders is not their age, it's not their gender, it's not anything related to the outside persona. It's really about the drive and passion around what they're building, and of course the market size around that they're trying to attack. The age is, as we like to say, nothing but a number.
Right.
We have repeat entrepreneurs that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they are just as driven and just as passionate as somebody in their 20s. So we don't really consider that as a factor.
Now, what about the question on the expectation for older founders to put money into their company at like the friends and family or seed stage?
I have seen that being done. It's not a precursor, it's not a prerequisite by any stretch of the imagination.
Now, the follow-up to this question I want to add to that is, do you have any advice for leaving a day job to start a startup when you have kids, mortgages, and other financial responsibilities? And that's definitely the drawback for some of these older, you know, potential entrepreneurs that do have to take some of those risks. What's your advice to entrepreneurs that come to you with those issues?
So our firm has been in business for 26 years, and throughout that I have been amazed at the entrepreneur. I mean, just generally as a category, entrepreneurs are a different breed altogether in terms of risk tolerance. And that isn't something that necessarily is correlated to one's bank account. It's correlated to one's drive. And so we have founders who are in their 40s, 50s, 20s, and it really hasn't mattered to them I mean, it should play a part. That is their family and their responsibilities. But really what they're going after is that brass ring of success that goes along with building an idea. And it's something that it's ideas that they don't let go of.
That you just can't stop thinking about in the middle of the night.
That's right. I mean, I've just been amazed. Every case has been, every company has its own unique story. And that's why this job is so fun. I mean, you see companies with CEOs and founders who have failed multiple times over, who find one great idea and go for it and turns it into a $601 billion company. And that's what makes Silicon Valley awesome.
That's very true. And I love the fact that you think it's fun, because that's the first time a VC has come into the studio and said that. But I want to switch to a little bit more of a controversial subject. You know, it was definitely, women in tech is an issue. You know, there's been a lot around why are there not as many women in tech, and why are we not seeing as many women engineers, and certainly we hope that changes. But why are there not more women in the VC world? By the way, I don't want to interrupt you, but you are the second woman to come on this show, and we've had, you know, a lot. Yeah. So, you know, okay, now you can answer the question.
No, that's totally. There are not a lot of females in the VC industry, and I need there to be more. I really, really do. That said, at Canaan, I'm fortunate enough to have one other female as a general partner, Wendy Hutton, who's on our healthcare team. And we have, I think, 4 female investment professionals in the firm. It's been a big priority for me to foster younger venture capitalists and folks that want to enter the venture industry, because it's important to have a diverse set of views at any partnership level. We certainly have that at Canaan, and I hope that that's the case in other venture firms in 5-10 years from now. A huge part of that is what you're alluding to, advancing women in STEM-related programs, science, technology, engineering, and math. We have got to do that, and leading by example means everything. So it's important that I hire great women, great founders, great entrepreneurs, not necessarily women, but it is important for me to help mentor and bring up females when I see stars.
Do you think there are any challenges that the VC industry has in particular, not necessarily at Canaan, but, you know, just generally for women to, you know, succeed or even enter?
Sure. A lot of it is social psychology. I mean, these are small firms. They're firms of 5 to 10 people. And I mean, back in college, I took a social psychology class, and the thing I remember most of all is the professor saying, like likes like. You want to be surrounded by people who are like you, who get you, who have an affinity towards the same ideas that you do. So it's not necessarily something that I blame the VC community for. It's just human nature.
Right.
And as an outlier, if you will, it's important that I foster, that I bring on more people like me to expand the viewpoints of any partnership and how they look at any deal.
Well, when my daughter gets to that age in 20 years, I'm going to send her to you.
We have to take it seriously.
Yeah,
it's a
for sure.
big part of our business.
Absolutely.
We've been fortunate enough at Canaan to have now funded in our most recent fund, which is a $600 million fund that we closed last year. We have a third of our founders are women. And it's something that we're pretty proud of.
I think it's amazing that there are the women. I mean, that,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I know you're basing this on ideas, right? You're basing these on the companies that you think are going to be great, but it's amazing that a third of them happen to be women.
Yeah, the top criteria for any entrepreneur that walks in the door is this a big idea? Is this an idea that can be a multiple billion-dollar company? That's number one, first and foremost, will never ever change. But then underlying that, the fact that 9 of these, I think 22 or 25 ideas have been founded by female CEOs is just, it's fantastic.
Well, it's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Maha.
Thank you, pleasure.